After these things, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the officials who were with him. And all the king's servants who were at the king's gate bowed down and did obeisance to Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai did not bow down or do obeisance.
Some scholars think that Mordecai refused to bow down to show respect to Haman was due to the historical feud between the Agagite, the tribe Haman belonged to, and Israel. This dates back to Agag, the ancestor of Haman, with the Amalekites and Israelites. It is recorded in Exodus chapter 17, verses 8 to 16, that Amalekites attacked Israelites in their camp, even before Israelites encamped at Rephidim. 1 Samuel chapter 15 states that Saul did not follow God's command to destroy all Amalekites. He spared Agag, king of Amalekites. In the end, Samuel killed Agag as instructed by the Lord. By Jewish tradition, Agagites were descendants of Agag. For that reason, Agagites were at feud with Israelites. Haman was holding grudges because Mordecai refused to bow down to him. He wanted to kill Mordecai and wipe out all the Jews in King Ahasuerus' empire as well.
People at that time would usually cast lots in the first month of every year to seek their fortune of that year before their gods. The first month in Persian is called Nisan, which falls on March through April in our calendar. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast Pur, which means the lot, before Haman for the day and for the month, and the lot fell on the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar.
Purim is originated from Persian, meaning lots. Since elimination of Jews was not a small matter, casting Purim, or casting lots, was a must to make sure this action could be carried out without any hindrance.
According to Esther chapter 3, verse 13, the date was set on the 13th day of the month of Adar to eliminate all Jews as the result of the cast Purim.
In fact, the Bible tells us that the Jews encountered quite a few times the crisis of being totally eliminated.
The first mention of the threat of the Jews being eliminated was in the book of Exodus. The Israelites were residing in Egypt and multiplying. The Pharaoh then gave orders that all males born of Hebrew people must be thrown into the Nile. The second crisis of Jews facing the danger of being wiped out was recorded in Book of 2 Kings, when the kingdom of Judah was overtaken by the Babylonians in 586 BC, and all the able-bodied Jews were taken captive to Babylon as slaves.
Haman knew the support from King Ahasuerus was crucial in order to carry out the elimination of the Jews.
Then Haman said to King Ahasuerus, "There is a certain people scattered and separated among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of every other people, and they do not keep the king's laws, so that it is not appropriate for the king to tolerate them."
Haman was so deceitful, he purposely hid the fact that his people had been feuding with the Israelites for quite some time. It may be true when he said that the Jews were still keeping their own customs and traditions, but it's obviously an exaggeration when he said that the Jews refused to obey the laws of the king.
Hitler also intended to annihilate all the Jews during World War II. The excuse he had for doing that was alarmingly similar to what was mentioned in the book of Esther. In his order for the killing of the Jews, Hitler accused the Jews of disturbing world peace, just like Haman accused Jews of disobeying the laws.
To ensure that his plot would get approval from the king, Haman even said that killing all the Jews would be beneficial to the finance of the empire.
Haman said to the king, "If it pleases the king, let a decree be issued for their destruction, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who have charge of the king's business, so that they may put it into the king's treasuries." According to the Greek historian Herodotus' record of Persian Empire tax revenue, 10,000 talents of silver is equivalent to 340,000 kilograms of silver. In the era of King Ahasuerus, the grand total of Persian Empire's annual tax revenue was about 15,000 talents of silver. Haman promised to donate 10,000 talents of silver, which meant additional 2/3 of the annual tax revenue for the royal treasury. No wonder King Ahasuerus was tempted.
As a matter of fact, Haman would not need to pay 1 cent himself. He already had it planned that he was going to confiscate the riches of the Jews when he carried out the plan of killing all the Jews. The same thing happened in the 20th century, when Hitler was slaughtering the Jews and plundering their valuable. As a result of Haman's deceit, King Ahasuerus made a decision that changed the fate of the Jews.
So the king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. The king said to Haman, "The money is given to you and the people as well, to do with them as it seems good to you." Then the king's secretaries were summoned on the 13th day of the first month, and an edict, according to all that Haman commanded, was written to the king's satraps and to the governors over all the provinces and to the officials of all the peoples, to every province in its own script, and every people in its own language. It was written in the name of King Ahasuerus and sealed with the king's ring. Letters were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces, giving orders to destroy, to kill, and to annihilate all Jews, young and old, women and children, in one day, the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods.
Swiftly, this terrible decree was sent from the king's palace in Susa to everywhere in Persia. All Jews living within the Persian territory, including those who had returned to Jerusalem, would be killed with no exception. Oftentimes, when people are at the end of their rope, God starts his miraculous work. At that time, all the Jews faced the threat of being annihilated. Their only hope was in God's deliverance.
At Spring of Water International Ministries, we invite you to journey with us, giving seed to the sower and bread to the eater. Isaiah 55:10. To find out more, follow Spring of Water International Ministries.